very good morning to Mr. Nakib. Let me introduce ourselves. I myself, Parveen Krishnan. So we have Sumitra Gunasekaran here, Kalai Selvi Ravichandran, and also Sasikala Tulesingam. We'll be presenting the final project presentation which was assigned to do. So without further delaying, let us jump into the topic. So we have tables of content here. And for the first question, describe Alif's life journey in stages according to Erikson lifespan development theory and state the developmental tasks that he has faced. So as you all can see, we have 8 stages for Erikson lifespan development theory, and I will be describing about the lifespan theory according to Alif's life journey. So the first stage is actually trust and mistrust. So Ali was showered with loves, and this is a reason that he has learned to trust his parents because they have given so much of attention and also basic needs of survival such as love, a happy family, a happy home, and etc. So his parents is sensitive to Ali's needs, which was made him to see the world as a safer place for him. So the second stage is actually autonomy versus shame or either doubt. So Ali explored the world with his parents' permission. They didn't restrict him when it's coming in making friends. So his parents has given Ali to learn that he can control his own actions to get results. In these stages, Ali's main task was actually resolve the issues of autonomy versus shame and doubt. So for example, Ali might build a sense of autonomy by making friends that they are good for him.
Initiative versus good, the third stage. So in this stage, we can see Ali is getting permission by his parents to explore the world. So by learning to plan and achieve goals while interacting with others, Ali actually gets to fulfill the task. So for the initiative part, a sense of ambitions and responsibility appears when Ali is given responsibility to explore within his limits. And Ali will then develop his self-confidence and also sense of purpose. Industry versus inferiority. So in the first stage, it is important for Ali to develop his self-confidence, but in his case, he struggled a lot with the schools and he realized that he couldn't catch up with the syllabus or to say the lessons. So he felt inadequate and also felt a sort of inferiority. And Ali received a very little help from his parents because they didn't know what would actually happen and what actually caused him to get into a lot of troubles. So this made Ali to doubt of his abilities, and he developed a sense of competence with the feelings of failure and also inferiority. Identity versus role confusion, the fifth stage. So Ali faced the task that identity versus role confusion, where in the beginning he was actually confused of his own role and he did a lot of bad things that brought problems to him. So as for Ali, he thought that it was actually, whatever he is doing was actually right. So Ali was apathetic and he didn't make a conscious search for his own identity. So he developed a weak sense of self-confidence and experienced role confusion. So he struggled to adopt a positive role. But in the end, he found his identity after his teacher approached him. So his teacher told that he's sick for a psychiatrist and he was actually diagnosed with dyslexia and also ADHD. So after receiving the proper encouragement, he started to having feelings and independence and make considerable improvements on his feelings, and also he graduated in the end. Intimacy versus isolation, the sixth stage. So Ali didn't find any troubles in sharing his life with someone. So Ali got to marry and started a life, or to say a family. So Ali was successful in resolving this conflict of the intimacy versus isolation stages. So he created a relationship with someone and fulfilled in the end. So the seventh stage, generativity versus technician. So in this stage, adults enter a time known as the adulthood, and generativity involves finding your life work and contributing to the development of the others through activities. So Ali spent a few years exposing what he was actually interested in. So worked several old jobs, and he committed himself in the culinary arts as he could see that he was potential in cooking. At the first, he worked as a busy boy in his uncle's restaurant, but as time went by, he worked harder and took several courses to improve his culinary skills. So at the end, he became the head chef in his uncle's restaurant. Integrity versus despair. So in this last stage, after of all his accomplishments, Ali begins to reflect his life work at the end, and he felt that a sense of satisfaction and pride. So we can see that Ali was actually happy with the life, and he has gone through a lot, and he survived in the end. So that's all from my part, and we'll be jumping to the second question. Thank you.
Describe Ali's life journey in stages and analyze the case using Gartner's theory of multiple intelligences. Describe which intelligence you think Ali might possess. Provide justifications for your answer. The multiple intelligence Ali might possess is spatial intelligence. Visually artistic people who are known to classify as spatial intelligence. These capabilities include picture manipulation, graphic skills and spatial reasoning, as well as anything that involves more than 2 dimensions. They may daydream or enjoy drawing in their leisure time, but they also enjoy puzzles and mazes. Many artistic vocations such as painters, architects and sculptors, as well as careers that demand the capacity to imagine, such as pilots and sailors, are intimately tied to spatial intelligence. The justification is Ali has possessed spatial intelligence, such as evidenced by his devastation and interest in the culinary arts. To justify having spatial intelligence, an individual must be able to manipulate and produce mental representations in order to solve difficulties. As you can see, Ali's teacher, Puan Hani, used spatial intelligence to guide him with the appropriate tools and approaches, which resulted in a considerable improvement in his learning. The next multiple intelligence is bodily kinesthetic intelligence, which is classified as the ability to manipulate both the body and objects while maintaining a good sense of timing. Due to a strong mind-body connection, these people can move objects with precision. Athletes and dancers, for example, can display this through physical skills, whereas surgeons and craftspeople can demonstrate it through precision and steady movement. Ali might also possess bodily kinesthetic intelligence, which is relevant to his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Children that excel in this area are adept at using their bodies to express emotions, views and manipulate objects. Hands-on learners are children who have a high level of bodily kinesthetic intelligence. We can observe in Ali's case study, he has a natural talent for cooking, as seen by the numerous praises he has received for whatever dish he has prepared. Thus, he learned the ins and outs of kitchen management. As a result, this clearly demonstrates that he has bodily kinesthetic intelligence in dealing with his ADHD. Furthermore, this multiple intelligence has aided in the treatment of dyslexia. This is evident in the career he started in culinary arts, where it requires the skills of preparing, cooking, presenting and serving food. Therefore, both of Gardner's multiple intelligence theories would be beneficial to people with dyslexia and ADHD. The discovery of talent associated with dyslexia may eventually lead to more effective educational strategies and help guide individuals with dyslexia to professions in which they can excel, as we can observe with Ali, who chose the culinary arts as his profession, allowing him to succeed despite his disabilities. Additionally, self-confidence should be boosted, particularly for ADHD individuals, because motivating them on their accomplishments would help them to achieve more.
Good afternoon to Sanakib. So now we will be presenting about question number 3, where we have to devise a plan to help Ali in his learning using the social constructivism approach. So we have started off with answering our question by defining what is constructivism. So constructivism is a studying concept that human beings are actively building or making their personal knowledge. This concept states that fact is decided through how the stories of the learners have and effect on their actions. Whereas social constructivism approaches encourages students to develop their own social constructs and to explore how knowledge is built and constructed. This approach also supports students in developing their own social understanding. This basically highlights that teachers and peers as joint contributors to students' learning, where this statement means that Ali's friend can be a good peer by helping his friend to develop his learning. So there are four main approaches that can help Ali to develop his learning. The four approaches are scaffolding, cognitive apprenticeship, tutoring, and cooperative learning. Scaffolding may be the primary approach that we will use in designing Ali's learning. Scaffolding means the technique of changing the level of support over the course of a teaching session by a more skilled person, where it could be the teacher or more advanced peer, adjusting the amount of guidance to fit the student's current performance. Ali has been diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD, and this has made him struggle a lot when it comes to learning. So, by scaffolding, the space between Ali's current knowledge and what he doesn't grasp can be bridged with the guidance of mine as a good peer. Next is cognitive apprenticeship. Cognitive apprenticeship is one of the social constructivist approaches that may be covered in planning. Cognitive studying approaches means a way wherein a professional extends and helps a novice knowledge of a culture's capabilities. We can use this method to assist Ali examine the cognitive approaches which the specialist also had used to carry out complicated tasks through the guided enjoyment of academic tasks. Cognitive apprenticeships involve 6 different methods, but out of the 6, we believe that these 3, which are scaffolding, coaching, and modeling, will be helpful in Ali's learning. The third one is tutoring. Peer tutoring includes a range of approaches in which learners work in pairs or small groups to provide each other with explicit teaching support, such as cross-ability tutoring, within which one learner who is commonly older takes the tutoring role and is paired with a tutee who are often younger, and reciprocal functioning tutoring, wherein inexperienced person trade among the function of instruct or tutee. Last but not least is the cooperative learning. Cooperative education may be a structured technique of mixing classroom-based education with sensible work experience. A cooperative education experience, normally called a co-opt, provides educational credit for structured job experience. There are few cooperative learning techniques that we found would be useful for Ali, such as think, pair, and share, jigsaw, reciprocal teaching, the Williams and STAD, or known as Student Teams Achievement Divisions. Okay, so for the first one, think, pair, and share. It is originally developed by Frank T. Lyman, 1981, and it allows for students to contemplate a posed question or problem silently. The student may write down thoughts or simply just brainstorm in his or her head. When prompted, the student pairs up with a peer and discusses his or her ideas and then listens to the idea of his or her partner. Following pair dialogue, the teacher solicits response from the whole group. Next is jigsaw. Students are members of 2 groups, home group and expert group. In the home group, students are each assigned in a different topic. Once a topic has been identified, students leave the home group and group with the other students with their assigned topic. In the new group, student learns the material together before returning to their home group. Once back in their home group, each student is accountable for teaching his or her assigned topic. The third one is reciprocal teaching. Brown and Kaliska, 1982, developed reciprocal teaching. It is a cooperative technique that allows for student pairs to participate in a dialogue about text. Partners take turns reading and asking questions of each other, receiving immediate feedback. Such a model allows for students to use important metacognitive techniques such as clarifying, questioning, predicting, and summarizing. It embraces the idea that students can effectively learn from each other. The fourth one is the Williams. Students collaborate to answer a big question that is the learning objective. Each group has differentiated questions that increases in cognitive ability to allow students to progress and meet the learning objective. Last but not least is the STAD, or known as Student Teams Achievement Divisions. Students are placed in a small groups or teams. Then the class in its entirety is presented with the lesson and the students are subsequently tested. Individuals are graded on the team's performance. Although the tests are taken individually, students are encouraged to work together to improve the overall performance of the group. So that's all from me. I will pass the next slide to Sasikala. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to explain about the question number 4, which it asks us to relate Ali's case to Bandura's social cognitive theory and describe how behavior, environment, and person or cognitive factors affect each other. When we take a look on what it does mean about Bandura's social cognitive theory, learning occurs in a social setting with a dynamic and reciprocal interaction of the person, environment, and behavior is defined as Bandura's social cognitive theory. Based on Ali's case study, it can be seen that Ali was able to excel in sports and make friends because of his parents' encouragement. This was clearly mentioned in the case study as Ali was born into a middle-class family who showered him with love. Growing up, he was always encouraged by his parents to explore the world and to not feel restricted when it comes to making friends. It is apparent that Ali was well motivated by his parents' sportiveness and that he had a solid mental condition. As a result, a person's positive behavior towards others would set up a conducive environment for them. According to Albert Bandura's perception, he declared that in addition to observation, attention is one of the necessary steps in learning. These three situations, such as Ali was unable to keep focus on his lessons as quickly as his friends, Ali became distracted because he did not grasp what was being taught, which affected his learning process and the quality of his works too. Ali's parents were unable to assist him. Ali's parents would have realized that something was wrong with Ali every time he got detention or ended up at the principal's office. However, they just observed without paying close attention to get to know of his psychological problems, and consequently, Ali's parents could not discover any solutions to overcome his issues. So from this, we can observe that those situations in Ali's life where there were no attention given, thus learning failed. Next, it is about the factors that affect each other. First is about behavioral factor. For example, after school, Ali began to experiment with his abilities, which consider as behavioral factor, by working several odd jobs. Moreover, although he was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD, he did not lose his confidence on his abilities that can be linked to behavioral factors since he practiced his skills with self-efficacy. Next, as for the second factor is about a cognitive factor. For example, it took this step by exploring his skills to gain knowledge which consider as cognitive factors, with the expectation which also consider as cognitive factors of learning what his real work sector is. And the third factor is about the environmental factor. As well, Ali decided to expand his culinary knowledge and skills after becoming aware of his abilities. Every time his dishes turned out well, Ali was motivated with self-efficacy by compliments which consider as environmental factors. As for the last part, it is all about the overview of question number 4. Overall, behavioral, environmental, and cognitive factors could have both positive and negative impacts on one's life. When we take a look at Ali's early life, it was pleasant since all of these factors worked in his favor. But things began to alter when he entered his school life. As we know that he matured and became aware of educational changes. All those three factors were working against him and his life had become miserable. Again, his life changed after he realized what was wrong with him. Therefore, this is how environment, cognitive and behavior factors affect each other. So that's all from us. Thank you.